Here is a comparison between the 2025 BMWs. We got the X5 M Competition in mineral white metallic over Shakir orange black full leather versus the XM in Dravid gray metallic over Shakir full Milano leather. Which one's gonna be better? 644 horsepower plug-in hybrid, 617 horsepower V8 twin turbo? I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and we're gonna start off with the X5 M Competition. The front is gonna have the most aggressive stance for the X5. Full LED for the headlamp assembly that goes into the gloss black. The iconic kidney grille is going to be a little bit more sleek and wide with front and rear parking sensors and a 360-degree reverse camera. And when you go into the M Competition, you get all of these black aesthetics that make it highlight and look more dramatic than the M60, which has 500 horsepower and a detuned S68. As for the XM, full LED headlights and daytime runnings that integrate into the enlarged kidney grille. This is going to look a lot more wide by the stance. It sits up a little bit more, so front and rear parking sensors. But for me, I like the style of the XM a little bit more than the X5 M Competition, but let me know your thoughts on that. As for the X5 M Competition, is powered by a 4.4-liter BMW M-Power turbocharged, which is a twin turbo, producing 617 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque, paired to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, reaching 60 at 3.7 seconds. At least that's what BMW's quoting, with a top speed at 155 up to 177 miles per hour. And that's set with the 295, 35, 21 up front. It's a staggered wheel setup, so you got a 315, 30, 22 out back. Red brake calipers housing 6 pistons in the front, vented, slotted for the disc. This is ready for the track. Now, when you get into these pricing, this is over 130 grand. You're not really concerned about MPGs, but just for spec purposes, you're gonna achieve 13 MPGs for the city, 18 MPGs for the highway with the M-Tune X-Drive all-wheel drive system, which will send 100% power to the rear wheel when you're taking off, especially because this is one of those vehicles that is not just special for the weekend, it's also a daily drive. And the XM gets powered by the 4.4-liter BMW M-Power Turbo plug-in hybrid, which is a twin turbo V8 as well. It's getting 644 horsepower with 590 pound-feet of torque paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission. The nice thing here, though, is you're getting 300-mile range, charging time on a level 2, about 10 hours, as well as getting over 40 MPGEs combined. But when you use just the gas, it's at 14 MPGs, which is just one over the X5 M Competition. Now, the 0 to 60 is at 4.1 seconds, so it's actually slower according to BMW, and a lot of that has to do with the curb weight. Top speed at 155 to 168, so this is still track ready, but I feel like you may have more fun with the X5 M Competition, but let me know your thoughts on that. As for the wheels, 275, 35, 23-inch up front. It's a staggered wheel setup with 315, 30, 23 out back. Red brake calipers housing the same 6 pistons in the front, except they're not vented and slotted for the rotor. So that also can tell you what it means by the performance whenever you're taking these vehicles on the track. But typically what happens, the buyers that buy these never go onto the track. And the weight distribution is at 48.9, 51.1, whereas the X5 M Competition, 50.8, 49.2. Curb weight over there is under 5,500 pounds. Curb weight over here, over 3 tons. But putting this in perspective to competition, the Lamborghini Urus is double the price of the X5 M Competition, and you're only a few tenths of a second quicker on the 0 to 60. As for the Audi RS Q8, it's right at the same speeds, and yet you're still getting a discount when you're going into BMW. As for the XM, this is just one of those unique vehicles because you're trying to be a little bit more eco-friendly, getting a plug-in hybrid. You're getting great numbers, but that does add to that curb weight, which is going to be over 600 pounds, the X5. The rear gets LED taillights, and the lower gets the vertical quad exhaust tips with the BMW etched logos on the windows. So I like the futuristic design that's coming out of the XM, but I also like that you're getting more savings when you go into the X5 M Competition with standard LED taillights. The lower gets quad exhaust tips with the gloss black. And going back to the question at the beginning, I would say the better choice is the X5 M Competition, but let me know your thoughts on that. Power liftgate is going to be standard, going into 18.6 cubic feet of storage. It's going to sit up a little bit higher with the hard privacy covers on the top and on the trunk with a 12-volt charger. But unfortunately, in order to maximize the 64.3 cubic feet, you have to go into the back in order to split fold these rear at a 60-40 split or a 40-20-40 split. Now, I'll maximize the cargo capacity, but it still will be less than the X5M Competition at 33.9 cubic feet. It is a power liftgate that's standard, and this opens up two ways. Privacy cover opens up, 12-volt charger. Underneath the floor gets the spare tire. Bag holders on both sides. But unfortunately, to fold the rear bench, the same problem. You have to go into the back at that 60-40 split or the 40-20-40 split that will maximize cargo to 49.2 cubic feet, which will be less in the full cargo capacity than the XM. But we need to go inside, start them up so you can hear the exhaust notes. The key fob for the X5M Competition. 20-way power seat adjustment for the front, heated, ventilated front seats, massage seat with the X5M badging that will illuminate memory for the driver and passenger. The dashboard is going to be different than the XM. This is going to be driver focused, the same thing as the XM, except the passenger side will be different with the M badging, ambient lighting on the air vents, and going into the curved BMW one panel, two screen layout. Let's fire it up. The XM will have the electrified sounds that come into play, as well as the 14.9-inch touchscreen, wireless, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM streaming, Bluetooth audio. You can stream videos through YouTube. It has a driver recorder, which also uses the cameras that's all over the vehicle for this 360-degree reverse camera for your dash camera. Hit onto the more, and you have the 3D view, which you can use gesture, and this is going to be on both the X5M Competition as well as this model here. Car wash view shows the trajectory for the front. Dual climate control settings in the front, and you still have physical buttons going into a wireless charging pad, BMW's digital key, 12-volt charger, USB port. These are heated and ventilated cup holders with the carbon fiber that's going to surround, and the BMW gear shifter is actually a shifter instead of a rocker. And that will be the same thing on the X5M Competition with a leather-wrapped steering wheel, multi-function, paddle shifts for M1 and M2 that you can set and tailor to make it more sport derived for the everyday or track derived with the paddle shifts. The gauge cluster is going to be the same in both models. You can go through an array of different content, including the AR, which we have in both of the vehicles, that use the camera from the front so you can see it in the gauge cluster. Heads-up display, auto-dimming rear view mirror with a long panel moonroof, but the XM will have the three-dimensional diamond pattern with the ambient lighting moonroof with Bauer & Wilkins upgraded sound system, and the door is going to be more luxurious with the ambient lighting. It's soft to touch where it needs to be. This is more of a sports car lifted up, so expect to have some sporty styling with the aluminum mesh for the speakers, a large storage pocket, and a storage nook for the driver. You'll have the same storage nook, but here's the door panel that is different because you get the quilted inlays, larger speaker mesh and ambient lighting, but the same style for your storage in the lower pocket. Headroom is more than enough, as well as leg space. Check this out. Let's fire it up. And it's the same thing for the XM. You're just going to have a ton of space, even though it's a driver-focused setup. Back seat, this is the opening that you have to fit 3 more, or you can use this armrest with cup holders and a storage and fit two with dual climate control settings, heated rear seats, a storage tray, USB ports 12 volt, as well as a 12 volt behind both of the front seats, and air vent with a storage pocket. Door panel gets the manual sun shades with the brushed aluminum, the quilted inlays, ambient lighting, and a long storage pocket. Leg space, not going to be an issue, as well as headroom. Fold this up so we can slide into the center. Feet space will be shared because the floor isn't completely flat. You will be sharing a little bit of butt, leg, and shoulder space, but for the most part, I can fit. Knee space will be compromised depending on how far back you sit these seats. And headroom, whereas the XM, headroom is not an issue. Leg space sitting into the center, you're gonna have actually more space because of how wide the vehicle is, as well as the interior, it actually wraps into the door panel. So it's a lot more luxurious with a long storage handle and a longer storage pocket. USB ports, you're gonna have them behind both of the front seats, as well as two in the center with a 12 volt storage tray, dual climate control settings, heated rear seats with air vents, and storage behind both of the front seats. And leg space here on the side, not an issue. Same thing with headroom. You actually have a little bit more space overall in the back seat. Here we do not receive the sunshades, and this is the opening that you have to get inside. The XM we are deliberately taking out first. It's around $169,000 opposed to the X5 M Competition, where that's about $139,000. So $30,000 difference in price. Performance though, you have more horsepower and torque. And listen to that engine kick in. We're just driving in normal to start off with 644 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque, but BMW is quoting that this is going to be slower than the X5 M Competition, hence that's why I started with this model first. So that way you can actually see the difference in the performance. The weight distribution is going to be better in the X5 M Competition. This weighs around 3 tons, actually a little bit more, whereas the X5 M Competition is under 5,500 pounds. So you can already see that plug-in hybrid is going to add some weight to it, but if you're looking to get 45 mpges combined, that's the only way you can go. You can quiet it down. You can go full electric for about 31 miles. Using the combustion engine, and just using the combustion engine though, you're getting 14 mpgs, which is not necessarily great, especially when you're considering it's a plug-in hybrid. You're wanting to get a little bit more, and really what you're getting is performance and a higher price tag. So for me, that's definitely going to be a con to start off. But I like the interior of the XM better than the X5 M Competition. Hopefully when they do the refresh to the X5M, they will put the rear of this in that, because ultimately the XM, they will be discontinuing. It's just not a really popular seller either. And I think they just sold a few, maybe 300-ish units last year. I think it's very unique. I actually do like the XM. It feels very presidential and expensive. The X5 M Competition does as well. You're just gonna feel a lot more sporty. This is going to have more luxury. So it's gonna be a softer drive than the X5. The seats are gonna be a lot more comfortable as well with the cushioning. But enough talking about specs. Let's see how she does. Literally has a bite, pushes you back so much. It's gripping nice. And when you're considering 23-inch wheels, over 3 tons curb weight, it's a lot. This thing is motivated. I mean, it just wants to go. You get the cracks that come into play. I like it. I mean, it is a fun vehicle. I don't care if the numbers are a little bit less than the X5 M Competition in specs. You feel a lot more dynamic and luxurious when you go into the XM. And yet it's still sporty. I mean, listen to that exhaust note. And you know, this is a hybrid, so check this out. You can click it into comfort. Now you don't hear the engine at all. Let's check out the X5 M Competition. 617 horsepower, you know the drill. near 50-50 weight distribution. Man, those cracks, it's so deep. And the performance is insane. I mean, under 5,500 pound curb weight, and you're able to do all this. Look at it go. Now, is it better than the XM? Performance-wise, it is. You're gonna feel it. It's gonna push you back and pin you in your seat. Braking is better. It weighs less. There's just a lot more going on. But in the same aspect, you still have a 48-volt mild hybrid here with a more rigid drive. That's gonna be more luxurious. For me, I'm all right with it. But I prefer the interior and the drive to the XM a little bit better. And you can see, I mean, you'll grab onto somebody really quick with this vehicle. I mean, it is just ready. It has a lot of performance whenever you're going into Sport Plus, going into your regular drive. It's going to cut that exhaust note off. You're gonna have the sound deadening, not as good as the XM, but that's to be expected. That's over 30K more. Interior, touch to feel, I like it. Personally, this is one of my favorite vehicles. I would option and buy an X5 M Competition. And a lot of those reasons is because of how dynamic it is. I mean, on curvy roads, look at it go. It just functions smoother whenever you're going through the bends. You don't feel all over the place. Both vehicles do feel planted, but this is just a little bit better with more savings. But then, like I said, you're going to sacrifice when it comes to interior because that one will be more superior. Sound system, I like the way the XM is designed overall for a package. But if you're looking to take it on a track, like I say in most of my reviews, nobody takes any of these variants out on the track. I would if I bought one, especially if I'm gonna drop $140,000 to $170,000. But let me know what you would do if you had that kind of money. Back in Sport Plus, I guess the only problem that I could really see with the X5 M Competition is you would be driving it a lot more so in sport mode, but in the same attribute, it doesn't matter. The XM, you're gonna be doing similar attributes in which you'll get basically the same MPGs if you're using just the combustion engine. The plug-in hybrid is really where it sets itself apart, but nobody is really wanting a plug-in M variant. The X5 M Competition is just one of those beasts with the S68 engine. Everyone is hoping that they just continue this way and just make it more powerful and not throw in a plug-in variant, because if they do, then you're basically at an M5. But it does lead me to some pros and cons, which the pros, you've heard a ton of them. The cons is it may be too much power, which is why the M60i comes out, giving you the same S68 engine and a discounted price. You're gonna be saving at least 30 grand any way you cut the cookie, especially adding some features to that. And if you are considering the XM, it's a great vehicle, but for me, I would go into the X5 M Competition, save the money, take that extra 30 grand, go on a vacation, put a down payment on a house, because you obviously are making decent money if you can afford a 140K vehicle. As for competition, realistically, BMW has outclassed a lot of it, going into different variants like Lamborghini, in which it doesn't matter. In the comments, I'm sure people are gonna say, well, they're faster. If you're a few tenths of a second and you're going red light to red light, you're not on the track, you're not going to see a huge difference, because you know what happens when you're at the red light? You're still side by side. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise website and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like, and I'd like to thank BMW of Wesley Chapel for giving us these two 2025 BMWs for our comparison between the XM and the X5 M Competition for our car review.